This lesson is about graphing angles, and we're going to do it on a coordinate plane. So our objective is I can graph angles on a coordinate plane. We're going to talk about a lot of the vocabulary. So if we have a coordinate plane, an x and a y axis, if we draw an angle, we're going to start the angle on the positive x-axis. This is called the initial side. And then when we draw the angle counterclockwise, and this is called the terminal side. That's where the angle ends. Now, when we're graphing these, we want to make sure that we understand what some of the terminology is for our coordinate system. So just a reminder for reference, this is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2, so we go that counterclockwise direction. This is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. Now, we're going to start drawing some angles and talking about some of the terminology that goes with it. So if we were to draw an angle, let's do a coordinate system here, and let's say that we were to draw an angle of 60 degrees. So 60 degrees, what we would do is we'd start our graph with the initial side here, so we don't have to redraw it, but we start here, and then we go 60 degrees up here, and this angle would be our 60-degree angle. That ends in quadrant 1, it's 60 degrees with the x-axis. Now, if we look at this graph, we want to make sure that we recognize that other graphs, other angles might go past our typical angles of acute and obtuse. What if we wanted to do an angle instead that was 210 degrees? Well, we'd start that angle again at the positive x-axis, and we'd go counterclockwise past 90, past 180, and then we go over here into the third quadrant, and that would be our 210 degree angle. Now that 210 degree angle, it ends in the third quadrant. Whenever we measure what's called a reference angle, the reference angle is the angle with the x-axis. And that angle is going to be acute. So in this case, the angle with the x-axis is this little angle right there. That's 30 degrees past 180. So this will just be a 30-degree reference angle for that. So the angle itself is 210 in the third quadrant. The reference angle is 30 degrees. All right, let's draw another one. Let's try one in the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, let's do, for instance, let's do 315 degrees. So 315 degrees would go past 90, past 180, past 270, and would come over here into the fourth quadrant. Now the angle that we want to measure for the reference angle, so this is 315, the whole angle, but this little angle here with the x-axis, that's going to be our reference angle. That's 45 degrees. Notice that's 360 minus that 315 because that's how far short we went. So this was 30 degrees past the 180 because that's in the third quadrant. This one's 45 degrees short of getting to the x-axis. So the reference angle always measures with the x-axis. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about one last thing here. I'm going to draw one in the second quadrant. So let's go ahead and draw this angle over here. This angle I'm going to draw is 20 degrees. That angle 120 degrees has a reference angle here of 60 degrees. So the angle itself starts at the positive x-axis, goes counterclockwise, and it ends there in the second quadrant. 120 degrees, the reference angle is 60 degrees. All right, now What if I wanted to find another angle that ended at the same place that one did? What I can do is I can add a whole 360 onto it to get a full circle around. And so an angle of 120 plus 360 is going to equal, in this case, 480 degrees. That's called coterminal. It means coterminal means that it ends in the same place that the other one did. You can keep adding other 360-degree angles onto it or subtracting 360 in order to get coterminal angles. So if I added another 360, that would have been like adding 720 onto the original. So when I add that, I'm going to get 840 as a coterminal angle. It will end in the same spot because I add another 360 on to that 480. All right, so let's do a couple of these things. Now I'm going to introduce a new idea. What if I want to go in the negative direction? What if I want to do a negative 80 degrees? Negative 80 degrees means you're going to go clockwise with it. And so this would be our negative 80 degree angle. Notice that when I go clockwise with it, it takes me in the opposite direction. In this case, the reference angle would also be, would be also 80 degrees. You want an acute angle, so it's going to be positive. The angle with the x-axis is 80 degrees, even though I got negative 80 to get it there. Now you can always go coterminal with that. If you want to take that negative 80 degrees, add 360 onto it. So coterminal with this one would be negative 80 degrees plus 360 would be one way to add that up. And that would give me a 280 degree angle in the positive direction, which is again in this just past 270. So some significant vocabulary here. First of all, when we draw an angle, the initial side is starting at the x-axis positive direction, and then we go counterclockwise to draw the angle. The terminal side is where it ends. We've got our quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the different quadrants. We also have reference angles. What are the angles formed with the x-axis? Not the y, but the x-axis is our reference angle. Okay, and then we have coterminal angles where you could either add or subtract 360 to get an angle that is coterminal with it, meaning it ends in the same place.